Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. In the name of Allah, all praise be to Allah, and may blessings and peace be on the messenger of Allah, the last messenger, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and his honorable companions and family. Dear viewers, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is Hatim Al-Hajj. I'll be your host today in place of Sheikh Muhammad Salah, who is your regular host at Ask Huda, and inshallah he'll be with you from the next episode. And I hope to do a job as close to good as he does. And I will be receiving, we will be receiving your questions at two phone numbers here, as well as the program's email. The numbers are 002-023-8555-248. They will be showing from time to time on the screen here. The other number is 9 instead of the 8 at the end. The email will be ask@huda.tv. ask@huda.tv. We will start by taking your questions. And whenever we have a chance to cover some of the pending questions from the last episode, we will do that inshallah as well. Maybe we'll start with one of the questions that we had from the last episode, and I'll start in the order the questions were received. I have a question here from Sister Halima from Nigeria, which says, is it permissible to attack people in their places of worship if we are not at war with them? The question may some of you may think it does not warrant like an answer, because it is almost a given that you don't. But sometimes you do need to clarify those issues, and you need to confirm that which is considered a given by some may not be considered a given by others. Certainly, if you're not at war with people, you do not only not attack them in their worship places, but you just not attack them in general. So it is not just a matter of where, it is a matter of, in principle, you will not attack those people that you are not in a state of war with them. And when are you in a state of war with the people? When it is a justifiable war, but that's a totally different issue, and it may require an episode by itself to talk about the details of when is a war justifiable. I think we are having a phone call here. Abdul Wahid from Canada is our first phone call. Yes, Brother Abdul Wahid.
Yes, brother.
Go ahead, brother.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Yes, I have a couple questions. The first one, it is allowed to file bankruptcy. The second question is, my wife is a convert, so I want to know what is the ruling regarding her family drinking habits.
Drinking?
And drinking habits, like these people drink, like you often. So
drinking where are they drinking?
Yeah, well, they are drinking alcohol, as you know.
At your home, I mean, they drink alcohol at your home, or where?
Well, it's like, when you go to them, like, they invite us, we go to them and then they start drinking sometimes, so, which is, I disagree with that, but my wife wants to know what is the ruling about this, like, what is, I know that there is a hadith which would say, like, al-khamru haram, hamilihi wa ba'ihi, but, he wants to, get from you the answer.
Sure. Inshallah. Okay, brother, Jazakallah khairan. Well, as for the first question, is it allowed to file bankruptcy? It depends. Bankruptcy has a basis in Islam. In Islam, when someone has been afflicted by loss of his assets, loss of his capital, and he has debts, that person is actually giving some sort of concessions that do not apply to other people. In fact, Jabir reports that a man has been afflicted by some major hardship, financial hardship that sort of annihilated his assets. He bought crops and he lost on those crops a great deal of money. His assets were wiped out. So the Prophet ﷺ said to his creditors, take what you have, what you see, and you're not entitled to anything else. Take what is there, and you're not entitled to anything else, which means you cannot be after this person for more. So this person will be interdicted. In other words, the seizure of the money will take place, the assets that he has will take place. During that process, the maintenance of the person and his household would go out of this money, so that he would be given some for his own maintenance and his household as well. But people can't take more out of him than what they can find with him, or they can identify as some of his assets. So it does have some basis in Islam. Procedures may be different, but the bottom line is one may apply for bankruptcy or may file bankruptcy if one deserves to file bankruptcy. So in other words, if you do this as the process tells you, you do not cheat, you do not lie, you do not, cheating or lying applies to writing as much as it applies to speech. So you cannot lie in speech, the same applies to writing as well. You cannot you cannot cheat or lie in writing. So if you're not going to have to do that, then you can go ahead and file bankruptcy. It would be permissible. There is another call that we will take now. It's Sister Fawzia from Nigeria. Go ahead, Sister Fawzia.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah, sister.
My question is, what is the ruling on consuming vinegar that we normally find in salad creams and ketchup?
What's the ruling of consuming vinegar?
Vinegar that we find in salad creams, ketchup, and the likes.
Okay, all right. So Sister Fawzia is asking about the ruling of consuming vinegar, and the reason why she may be asking this, because during the process of making vinegar, it goes through a process of fermentation where there is some percentage of alcohol formed in the and that liquid. But then it goes through a process where it loses the sweetness that may be found with alcoholic drinks, and it keeps the sourness of the alcoholic drinks in a process that is known to people who have a background in chemistry. Now, we as Muslims are not allowed to turn wine into vinegar. We are not allowed to turn wine into vinegar. Why? Because the Prophet ﷺ had forbidden us from sort of dealing with wine in any way, shape, or form. Even when some orphans had wine and the Prophet ﷺ was approached about their case, whether it would be permissible to turn their wine into vinegar, and the Prophet ﷺ said, no, it is forbidden. That sent a clear message that we have nothing to do with wine. if anyone's property or assets should be protected, then it is the orphan's property or asset. But since this property or asset was actually wine, then it may not be protected in this case, even by turning it into vinegar. So we as Muslims should not do this. Now, if the wine turned into vinegar by itself or through the doing of someone else, I was not involved in getting this wine, making this wine vinegar, would it be permissible for me to use that vinegar or to consume that vinegar? Well, the Prophet ﷺ said, نعم الإدام الخل, which means that what a good food is vinegar. Idam is the food that you eat with bread. It is whatever it is that you eat using bread. So the Prophet ﷺ said what a good food to eat with bread is vinegar, which means that vinegar is permissible to use. Therefore, if the vinegar came from wine through just the natural process, or through the doing of someone other than you, then it is permissible for you to use that vinegar and to consume it. I am having another phone call here. Sister Aisha from Egypt, you may go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Sheikh, please, is there any ruling about sexual harassment and racism in Islam? And if there is any, what are the rulings?
Sister, would you please repeat that?
Okay. Is there any ruling in the Quran or in Islam about sexual harassment?
Sexual harassment.
And racism?
And racism.
Yes. If there is any, please, can you let us know about it?
Sure.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. Well, I think the question from Sister Aisha here from Cairo is about sexual harassment and racism, and if there is a ruling in the Quran or Sunnah or in the Deen about sexual harassment and racism. Certainly sexual harassment comes in grade, in degrees. Some of it may be a major crime in Islam, an enormity in Islam. Some of it may be less of a crime, not necessarily an enormity, but at any rate it would be still a sin and a crime, no matter what. If it can be classified under sexual harassment, in other words, someone who is not a spouse approaches a person of the other gender, or maybe sometimes of the same gender, in a sexual way that is unacceptable and inappropriate, or seeks, involvement in sexual relation with that person in a way that is unacceptable Islamically. So certainly that is completely forbidden. If it is forbidden to look for a second time out of temptation or with desire or with lust, to have a second look at a person of the opposite gender if you have lust, and many of the scholars said even without lust, just a second look would not be permissible, because the first look, everybody does that, because if you're walking in the street, you're not going to be able to look down all the time. So certainly with that, it is quite clear that the sexual harassment would be considered an enormity, and the more aggressive it is, it becomes more of a crime. The issue of racism is an issue that is sort of like, it's cut and dry in Islam. The Prophet ﷺ said, يا أيها الناس إن ربكم واحد وإن أباكم واحد. O people, this hadith is reported by Ahmad from Jabir authentically. O people, your Lord is one and your Father is one. ألا لا فضل لعربي على أعجمي ولا لأسود على أحمر على أبيض إلا بالتقوى. There is no virtue for an Arab over an Arab, or a non-Arab over an Arab, or white over black, or black over Oriental, except through piety. And then the Prophet ﷺ recited the verses in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا إِنَّا خَلَقْنَاكُم مِّن ذَكَرٍ وَأُنثَىٰ وَجَعَلْنَاكُمْ شُعُوبًا وَقَبَائِلَ لِتَعَارَفُوا إِنَّ أَكْرَمَكُمْ عِندَ اللَّهِ أَتْقَاكُمْ. All you who believed, we have created you from a single male and a single female and made you into nations and tribes, that you may know one another. Most certainly, the most honorable of you in the sight of Allah is the most pious. The Prophet ﷺ went to the extent of saying to someone who made a racial slur against another one of the Sahaba, إِنَّكَ امْرُؤٌ فِيهِ جَاهِلِيَّةٌ. You are a man that has jahiliyyah in him. And jahiliyyah is the pre-Islamic disbelief, a pre-Islamic system of disbelief. It means ignorance, pre-Islamic ignorance, or a pre-Islamic system of disbelief in general. This was said to a Sahabi that was one of the honorable Sahaba, but since the violation was a huge violation, the Prophet ﷺ felt that the exhortation or rebuking him now has to be in a very strong wording, or has to take very strong wording. So that's why he made that statement. So that should also be quite clear that this is forbidden in Islam, and this is a reflection of egotism, a reflection of prejudice, a reflection of kibr, that is the greatest sin and the first sin. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was first disobeyed by the kibr of Iblis, the kibr of the shaitan, who refused to prostrate before Adam out of arrogance, self-conceit, and prejudice. So I think I'm having another phone call, so I have Brother Hassan from Nigeria. Welcome, Brother Hassan. Go ahead, brother. Okay. We have Brother Abdul Qadir now from Nigeria instead. Okay. Maybe I'll have a chance now to say to answer the question about the family of the in-laws of the brother who called from Canada who drink. So he said that his wife is a convert and his in-laws drink, and I asked where do they drink, because if they drink at their home, then I don't know what he can do about this. Aside from giving them dawah to Islam and subsequently to abandoning wine. But if they drink in his presence, and that's probably what he was asking, that they drink in his presence or his wife's presence. Now the directions from the Prophet ﷺ here are quite clear, that we should not be involved in this, involved with wine in any way, shape, or form. Hadith of Anas, in which Anas said that the Prophet ﷺ invoked the curse of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon 10 people who deal with wine. It included the one who sits with someone who is drinking. Jalisaha is the one who sits in the presence of wine or in the presence of someone who is drinking. Now, so what should be done in this case? And I think that a little bit of smartness needs to be used in this case. Sometimes if you are at their home and they are drinking, the wife, which is the convert, needs to keep herself busy doing things at home, doing chores at home, taking the garbage out, cleaning the kitchen. They all appreciate that. No one that doesn't appreciate that. It's always like a welcome help. So if she does that and keeps herself busy doing that and avoid the very place where they are drinking, then that is a way out of being in the presence of wine while people are drinking it, or in the presence of people who are drinking wine. If they go out to some place, then it could be a little bit more cumbersome and a little bit more difficult to sort of get yourself out of it, out of the dilemma. of them drinking, at the same table. And in this case, I think it has to be a matter of just setting the limits and saying that I can't go this far. I am very willing to accommodate the differences amongst us and so on and so forth, but this far I can't go. And honestly speaking, a lot of people will not have much trouble with this. When they go out with you, they will just drink something else other than alcoholic beverages. And over time, I mean, if you stay firm, and over time they will appreciate your commitment to your principles. I'm having another phone call here. I have a phone call from Muhammad from the UAE. Welcome, Muhammad. Tfaddali.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Is it permitted in Islam to take homeopathic medicine for non-critical illness?
Is it permissible in Islam to take homeopathic medicine for a non-critical illness?
And my second question, can I ask the second question?
Sure, go ahead, sister.
Yeah, what is the ruling about the second Jama'ah? The second Jama'ah after the first one, the congregational prayer?
Okay. Well, first of all, homeopathic medicine, just to make you aware of it, it is basically very diluted substances that are usually taken from the environment. And it is extremely diluted. But the people who believe in homeopathic medicine, they believe in its effect and so on and so forth. Maybe conventional medicine is not so much fond of homeopathic medicine, or they don't believe in it so much, people who practice conventional medicine. Yet, if someone believes in it and believes it helps from certain diseases, you may very well go ahead and use it for critical or non-critical illness. I would suggest that for critical illness that you do see some physician that is a conventional physician, because that is the type of medicine that is known to be most effective to the very vast majority of people. But for a non-critical illness such as cold or something of that nature, you may certainly experiment with homeopathic medicine if you desire. That would be absolutely permissible. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Tadawaw ibadallah," seek treatment, O servants of Allah. The second Jama'at, and I think that you're asking you're asking about certain people who come into the masjid late and they find the first Jama'at to be over and they want to establish a second Jama'at. What would be the ruling here? We have one Sahabi who prayed the second Jama'ah with a group of people that came late with him, which is Anas ibn Malik, and we have another Sahabi, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, who did not pray the second Jama'ah, but rather took his disciples and went back home to pray. What does that mean? The scholars who believe that establishing a second Jama'ah is absolutely fine and not a problem at all, they say that this was a time, the action of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud when he went back home and prayed the second Jama'at at home. This used to be during a time of fitna, trials and tribulations. Some people were starting to rebel against the rulership of Uthman radiallahu anhu. So if Abdullah ibn Mas'ud was found in the masjid of the Prophet ﷺ to be making a second Jama'ah after the Jama'ah of Uthman ibn Affan radiallahu anhu, maybe a visitor from outside of Medina would see this and would think that Abdullah ibn Mas'ud is actually avoiding to pray behind Uthman radiallahu anhu, take this back home, and then the rumors start to spread and cause more damage. So he favored praying at home because of that reason. Now, I may also say that or to reconcile between the practice of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud and that of Anas ibn Malik, some of the scholars said that if you have a masjid that has an established congregation, and an imam that is a regular imam of the masjid, an imam ratib or a regular imam of the masjid, then you do not pray a second jama'ah, because the masjid, they may have their own functions, they may want to start a lecture, they may want to do this or do that, and you pray individually. You pray individually if you come in late. That is personally the position that I believe in, but it is quite a controversial issue, and if you see someone establishing a second jama'ah in the masjid, that is the position of multitudes of scholars, so don't condemn them for that. But my own position that I believe in is that if this is a masjid that has an established congregation and a regular imam, then don't establish a second jama'ah. Unless you get like a sort of a clear permission, whether it's ongoing permission or like a random one from the imam of that congregation, and the congregation itself does not feel anything wrong about you establishing a second jama'ah, and you're not interrupting any of their functions and so on and so forth. In this case, you can have a second jama'ah. I'm having another phone call. Brother Abdul Hakim from Nigeria. Welcome, Brother Abdul Hakim. Go ahead, brother.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I have two questions, inshallah.
Yes, brother.
Number one, is football forbidden in Islam?
Football?
Yes. Is it forbidden in Islam?
Like soccer?
Yes, soccer, yes.
Okay.
No, the first question. Can I give you the second question?
Go ahead, Akhi.
My father has a business, and after his death, must we all divide the business into pieces, or can we divide it in terms of shares, and a particular member of the family continue running the business, while after a year we can share the profit? Hello?
Okay, can you repeat that?
I'm talking of inheritance in Islam.
Inheritance, okay.
For somebody's father who has a business, a going business, and is now dead,
okay.
Must we divide the asset into pieces, or can we put it into shares and give every person who is entitled to the inheritance a particular percentage that is due to him? And a member
I
of
think the
family,
brothers, I think that they got your question, so I will answer the question inshallah after the break. I'll take the football one now, and I will answer the other one after the break inshallah. Football is not haram in Islam. Soccer is not haram in Islam. Soccer would be haram if it leads to haram. So if it keeps you away from your prayer, then until the time of the prayer goes out, then it is haram. If any sport per se requires the performance of something that is haram, then it is haram. If it keeps you away from something that is wajib, then it is haram. But in general, if it does not require you to do something that's haram or keep you from something that is wajib, then sports in general would be permissible, including soccer. I have another phone call. Yes, Sister Aisha.
Assalamu alaikum.
Go ahead, Sister Aisha. Welcome, sister. Go ahead.
First, I have 3 questions. My first question is, I want to know if it's allowed in Islam to tie your hair by.
Okay. Inshallah, when we come back from the break, we will answer the questions that we need to answer from the brothers. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back. We have 2 questions from before. The first one was about the division of inheritance, and the question was from a brother from Nigeria who was asking whether it is after their father died and their father left them a business, whether it would be permissible to keep the business and divide the profit of that business according to their shares, or should they go ahead and divide the business itself into the respective shares. And they can do either way. They can do either way. As long as the business, even if they keep the business as a whole, but the ownership of that business is divided, the ownership of the business is divided amongst them according to their shares. They can dissolve the business and take, each one takes their share, or they can carry on with the business. Let's say it's like one store, they can carry on as long as the ownership of that store is divided according to their various shares, and then they can conduct the business in partnership thereafter and divide the profit. The question that we had from the sister before the break, right before the break, I think she had more than one question, but she got cut off. But the one that we heard was about the permissibility of selling hair. Human hair is not allowed to be used for wigs, or it's not allowed to be used by other human beings to add volume to their hair. And therefore selling it for that purpose is not permissible. Selling body organs in general is not permissible. Selling body organs in general would not be permissible. Now, if that hair, if that human hair is used for something else that is not impermissible, and someone will cut their hair and then they will be offered money for that hair, which will be used for a purpose that is a permissible purpose, then it would be a different condition here. And in that case, it might be permissible if there is an identifiable use. The scholars talked about things that have no benefit and things that are useless or purposeless, and the prohibition of selling things that are useless or purposeless. Some of the things that the scholars identified as useless or purposeless may end up having a particular use or benefit, and if they ended up having a particular use or benefit that is a legitimate one, then that item becomes sellable once again. What is forbidden is to sell to your brother something that is of no use or no benefit. I think I will have a chance here to cover another question from a previous episode. This is a question from some sister from Bangladesh, Sister Razia from Bangladesh, and she's asked, I vowed to fast on a Friday, which I did. However, people are now advising me that I should have fasted the day before or after. What is your opinion? They were right. You don't want to single out Friday with fasting. So you should have added a day before or a day after as they advised. I have another question here from Muayyad from Athens, Greece. I work in the Human Resources Division of a commercial bank. However, the sister who vowed to fast on Friday and she already fasted, her vow has been fulfilled. So the vow has been fulfilled, but they were right in advising her to fast the day before or a day after. Sister Muayyad from Athens, Greece says, I work in the Human Resources Division of a commercial bank. Is this halal or haram? In the Human Resources Division of a commercial bank. For this sister here, she will not be interacting directly firsthand with usurious contracts or the usurious transactions. Therefore, it is not sort of incumbent upon her to leave her work tomorrow, but she should certainly look for another job, and once she finds a job, another suitable job, she should earnestly look for another suitable job, and once she finds it, then she should leave to it. Yet, since she is not directly involved in a transaction that is a usurious transactions, she may still work in her bank if she does not find another suitable job despite looking for one. And why does she need to leave the bank in the first place if she did find another suitable job? Because although she is not directly involved in any usurious transaction or forbidden transaction, she is actually working, helping hire the people who will do that job. So she is close to the zone of sin, and therefore she should not help them on this particular business, which is a forbidden one. I am having a phone call now. Brother Abdul Hakim from Nigeria. Go ahead, brother.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Question is on contemporary fiqh on the issue of organ donation. For example, it has been shown now that people can donate their kidneys and so probably retainer of the eye for other people. So is it permissible for me as a Muslim to write it as my wasiyah that if I die, a particular part of my body that can still be useful to others be removed for their use? Is it permissible Islamically?
To write in your wasiyah that if you die, a part of your body will be donated.
Will be donated for other people who need it.
For other people who need it.
Is it accepted Islamically?
Yes, it is, brother. It is permissible Islamically.
Do you understand my question, Sheikh?
Did you have another question?
I said, you understand this?
You're asking about organ donation, if it is permissible for you to write in your wasiyah or your will that your organs may be harvested and given to people who need them.
Yes, that's what I'm looking at.
Yeah, and the answer to this is it is permissible. It is permissible. Organ donation would be permissible given, there are certain conditions here. For the vast majority of organs, there is a separate discussion about certain organs such as reproductive organs, but for the vast majority of organs, it is permissible, given that there will be no harm to the donor, and given that this is not a sale. This is basically a complete charitable transaction, not a form of a sale. We are not permitted to sell our organs. Therefore, sales would not be permissible in all cases. But for someone to say that take it from my cadaver after I die, from my dead body, that is permissible for sure, according to the very vast majority of the scholars of Islam, and according to the resolutions of Al-Majami' al-Fiqhiyya, the Fiqh Assemblies, the one that belongs to the OIC, Organization of Islamic Conference, the one that belongs to the Muslim League or Rabit al-Alam al-Islami. Those Fiqh Assemblies said that this would be permissible, because now they have your approval. It's a cadaver, therefore there will not be harm to the donor, and it is donation, it is not sale, therefore it would be permissible according to the very vast majority of Muslim scholars, contemporary ones. And I can answer another question here. from another brother Abdul Hakim from Malaysia. He's asking if it is okay to sell his pet cat. The cats are okay to sell. If you have a pet cat, it is fine to sell it. What's forbidden is to sell a certain type of animal that's called the sinnawr, which it sort of belongs to the same family of cats, but it is not a cat. And it is forbidden also to sell dogs. Those are animals that are forbidden to sell, aside from the other animals that would be unclean animals, or aside items of sale that would be forbidden for other causes. It is also forbidden to sell dogs and this particular animal, which is sinnawr from the cat family, yet it is like a vicious, bigger animal. It's more vicious and bigger than a cat. I don't recall the translation of sinnawr at this point, but it is from the cat family, vicious and bigger than a cat. But a cat per se would be permissible to sell. I have another question here. That says, it's a question from Sister Myra Anwar from Pakistan. She says, if the Imam does not allow time for the followers to recite Surah Fatiha, what should they do? The Imam may or may not allow time for the followers to recite Al-Fatiha. It's a controversial issue, and many scholars said that the Imam should not really pause between his recitation of Al-Fatiha and the subsequent surah. And some of the scholars said that the Imam may give a chance for the people who need to recite Al-Fatiha between his recitation of Al-Fatiha and the subsequent surah. So it's a controversial matter. Your Imam may be this or that. If he does not allow you, then you recite Al-Fatiha with him while he is. If you know that your Imam does not allow for a pause, then you recite Al-Fatiha with him. Or when he is reciting the following surah, you try to recite it quickly, because the Fatiha, according to the position of Imam Shafi'i, which is the one chosen by Imam Bukhari and many others, is a must to be recited by everyone, whether he is the Imam or the Ma'mum. جزاكم الله خيرا وبارك الله فيكم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.